Storm Chandra is battering large parts of the UK this morning. Floods, school closures, widespread travel disruption and strong winds and heavy rain have been forecast for large parts of the United Kingdom. Snow as well in some parts of the country. An amber warning is in place in the southwest of England for rain, and a second has been issued in the eastern coast of Northern Ireland, which is bracing for winds that could reach 75 miles an hour. Many areas of the south of England also face yellow warnings for rain and wind, with the Pennines region and much of Scotland facing warnings for snow and rain, causing severe travel disruption. The Severn Bridge has been closed in both directions this morning due to high winds. Traffic diverted via the Prince of Wales Bridge. The strong winds also mean the Humber Bridge has been shut to high-sided vehicles. Some railway lines and roads have been closed in the southwest and Hampshire due to flooding. Firefighters have rescued people from 25 vehicles in floodwater in Devon and Somerset. And a section of the A66 in County Durham, between County Durham and Cumbria, has been closed because of snow. Let's just show you some live shots from St Austell. This is the scene there this morning. It's been a pretty choppy start to the day down in Cornwall. That, of course, is where we're seeing some of the worst weather predictions for the UK. This, meanwhile, another scene in Cornwall this morning. A bit of sunshine there reflecting off the coastline. The waves a little lower than they had been slightly earlier this morning, but those weather warnings do persist throughout the course of the day. Well, let's bring in Alexander Burkle, who's a senior operational meteorologist at the Met Office. Good to have you with us. What's the current state of play?
So Storm Chandra has brought significant amount of rain, particularly in the southwest. I'm here in Exeter and Devon, and lots of roads are flooded. There's a lot of disruption because of just how much rain has come. And it's worth bearing in mind just how wet it has been through recent weeks. So that the ground was already very saturated. And so when we added a further 50, 60 millimetres, even a little bit more than that in some places, it wasn't a huge surprise that we've seen this level of flooding, which is why we had that amber warning out for rain across parts of the southwest. Now, the feature that is Chandra is actually sticking just to the west of us. The low pressure centre's making its way northwards up Ireland at the moment. And as it does so, we're seeing that band of heavy rain pushing its way northwards across parts of northern England and into Scotland. And as you mentioned, that then brings the potential for some significant hill snow. Could see 10 to 20 centimetres building up. There will be further road closures and disruption as a result of that. But perhaps it's the winds that are now the greatest cause for concern for a couple of reasons. Yes, they're going to be strong, 70, 75 miles per hour in exposed parts, particularly for Northern Ireland, but it's also the direction of the winds. Now, often our low pressure systems, they rattle through from west to east. It's not what this one's doing. It's going northwards up Ireland. And as a result, the winds for eastern parts of Northern Ireland will be coming in from the east-southeast. That's a slightly unusual direction, particularly for these kind of strength of winds. And so as a result, the impacts are likely to be greater than if they were coming from more of a westerly, southwesterly direction.
And with that in mind, is there any prospect of coastal flooding?
There's definitely the risk. We have already seen footage of large waves, and with the strong winds continuing as Chandra makes its way northwards up the western side of Ireland, we are going to see further issues as a result. There's also the risk of other disruption. Trees could be blown down, power lines, so there could be further power cuts. There could be communities cut off as a result of this severe weather. Also worth highlighting, lots of other warnings for various weather types as we go through the rest of today. And even if you're not within those warning areas, there will still be heavy rain around. There will still be some strong gusty winds. And even though in the southwest, for example, we're now seeing the worst of Chandra clearing through, there's heavy thundery showers coming as we go through this afternoon. And with areas already flooded, that could make things a little bit worse.
What kind of rainfall accumulations, what strength high winds are we predicting at the moment?
So we've probably seen the highest rainfall totals already. Some places in the southwest have seen 60 millimetres, a little bit more than that in some places. And that's a substantial amount. Like I already mentioned, the ground was so saturated that was enough to cause some significant disruption here. In terms of the winds, we're talking 70, 75 miles per hour, possibly a little bit stronger than that, mainly down the western side of the UK. Northern Ireland's bearing the brunt in terms of the strongest winds and the greatest impacts from those winds as we go through today. The amber warning is valid until 9 o'clock this evening. So the difficult conditions because of Chandra, particularly in Northern Ireland, but across much of the country, will continue through much of today.
And what about temperatures, Alexander? It feels, and this is through no scientific reasoning of my own, but it feels mild for this time of year, considering we're approaching February, which should be one of the coldest months of the year.
Well, that all depends whether or not you're in the north or the south of the country at the moment. In the north, we still have some very cold air across us, and that's why, as the rain associated with Storm Chandra has pushed its way across the country, we've then seen this snow risk, albeit it's mainly confined to just higher ground, but nonetheless, 10 to 20 centimetres over these higher routes, the Pennines into Scotland, for example, that's enough to cause some significant disruption. And temperatures there are a little bit below average. We're looking at highs of around 5 today. And when you factor in the wind, the rain, the snow, it's going to feel pretty unpleasant. Further south, temperatures are closer to average, even a little bit above. We're talking just about getting into double figures. Again, when you factor in the wind and the rain, it's not going to feel particularly nice, but not as cold as you may expect for the time of year, and definitely not as cold as what we saw, for example, over the Christmas period when we had widespread temperatures close to freezing, and then we had a lot of ice earlier on this year as well. The one thing to bear in mind on that is as we go through tonight, we will see the impacts of Storm Chandra clearing and easing away, and we'll actually have some drier, clearer weather developing across large chunks of the country. And with that, we're going to see temperatures dropping close to, if not below, freezing. And because the ground is going to be so very wet from all the unsettled weather that we've had as a result of Storm Chandra, and then we see those temperatures getting to sub-zero, well, ice is going to be quite a risk as we go through tonight and the early hours of tomorrow morning. So even though tomorrow looks like a calmer, drier, brighter day for many of us, there will be quite a bit of ice around first thing in the morning, which will add to the difficult driving conditions. So a different beast compared to what we have today, but nonetheless could cause some problems.
And what about the medium-term trends? Are you tracking anything that's on the horizon?
Well, from the point of view of the people who are flooded at the moment and the people who are struggling with the amount of rain, I'd love to be able to say that there looks like there's going to be a respite in the near future. But at the moment, it's set to stay unsettled through this week and into the weekend as well. There will be some drier, brighter weather around. Like I mentioned, Wednesday we'll have some sunshine and also Thursday. But then Friday and at times this weekend, further heavy rain coming in. It's most likely to affect parts of the southwest, where the ground is so very wet at the moment. And so although as we go through Thursday night into Friday, the rainfall totals don't look as high as what we've seen through the last 12, 24 hours or so, they could cause some further impacts just because of the ongoing issues from Storm Chandra. Also, northeastern parts of Scotland are likely to see a fair amount of rain as we go through much of this week as well, so we could see some impacts there. Looking even further ahead, it's really not until early February, maybe, where we start to see some signs of something a little bit drier. But that kind of lead time, we often see hints of higher pressure, more settled weather in the forecast, and then it doesn't always come off. And so it looks like the unsettled, often wet and at times windy weather is going to remain for a little while.
Alexander Burkle, Senior Operational Meteorologist at the Met Office. Really good to have you with us. Appreciate you sharing your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And just worth noting for you, there's plenty more on the day's story, on the day's weather across the UK. There's a live page running as we speak. On the Sky News website at Sky News, more details on people rescued from 25 vehicles stuck in floods, according to firefighters, and also some of the physical impacts of that storm. You can find it all online.